Did you put a thing up? I didn't get no. I didn't get tagged or nothing.
I know I hadn't hit record yet.
Oh,
I haven't. I hit record, but I haven't hit go live yet. All
oh.
right, so now I'm hitting go live.
All right, we ready?
Yep.
Rolling. All right. Hello, and welcome to Sips and Scripts, the podcast where we make a cocktail and talk about one of our favorite films from past and present. My name is Terrell Bernard, and I watch movies.
My name is Kirsten Jackson, and I am a cocktail influencer at lowcountrysocialite.com.
And my name is Kayla Rose, and I am an entertainment blogger at inmytheater.com. Welcome to our show.
Welcome,
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
welcome.
Welcome into this place. Okay,
Oh,
anyway.
Lord.
Y'all, I'm so excited to be in the land of living and back among my people on this good
Yes,
Yeah, you
yes.
were
Welcome back.
day.
you had it pretty rough there last week. It was
Yeah. A little
it's a
battle
lot
through
going
quarantine.
on.
We're not gonna lie. I got to watch y'all do y'all thing last week, and it was great. So glad to be back
Yeah.
on for this very lovely, chaotic movie.
Well,
Yay!
we're glad that you are back with us this week. It wasn't the same without you. It was nice having you in the comments though. You were with us
That's
in
right.
spirit.
In spirit. In spirit.
Yeah. So this week it is Terrell's pick. So
Oh,
It's my
Terrell,
pick.
I mean no, it's Kayla's pick. My bad. Last week was Terrell's pick.
yes.
My bad. Okay. It's Kayla's pick. Kayla, do you want to introduce your movie? What film are we talking about today?
Sure. So today we're talking about Just Another Girl on the IRT. It is an American drama film written, produced, and directed by Leslie Harris. The follows this girl named Chantel. She is a teenager. I think she's 17 from Brooklyn, and she's super smart. She has ambitions and goals. She wants to be a doctor, first in her family to go to college, and really change her situation around. However, we kind of see it's definitely one of those coming to age stories where we kind of see how life takes you versus how you take yourself sometimes. So it's a really good. It's very interesting, and I can't wait to talk more about it. The movie came out in 1993. It was had a budget of $130,000, and the entire film was shot in 17 days.
This is
So,
Tyler Perry's Blueprint. Gotcha.
What did you say?
I said Tyler Perry's Blueprint. You know, he'll shoot a whole series in
He
15
do.
seconds.
He do. I don't even need no leading lady. I'll play all the parts.
Tyler, we love you. But it's that that
Nah, Tyler's cool with me, but yeah.
we're only stating the facts, sir.
Yes.
One really cool thing about this movie was that Leslie Harris, who was the director, she became the first African American woman to win a special jury prize at Sundance Film Festival for this movie. So this movie, was award winning, breaking. It might not be one that you all remember as being a hood classic or so, but apparently
Because
it
you
was.
know Terrell will tell us.
Terrell, well, no, because Terrell don't know nothing about this movie, so y'all gonna have to educate me on the hood authenticity of this film.
it might not be a huge it might not be a huge, hood classic or so, but it did have some award-winning moments. And in 2022, the director said that she had completed a screenplay for a sequel. So we might be seeing a second one
No, we won't.
pop up.
No, we won't.
But before we go on, let's hear everyone's history with the film.
Well, who would you like to hear from first?
Go ahead, Kirsten.
No, let Terrell go first because he looked like he just itching to tell us that he ain't never seen this movie before.
Oh, most definitely. I have seen that poster probably a million times, a million different places.
Thank you.
But watch the movie? No.
That's what I was trying to say earlier, when we do our little pre-briefing.
Yeah.
That I know you have heard, you might not have seen this movie, but I know you've seen the poster for it. And
definitely
and well, my history with the film is I have seen it before, because it was released in 92. And I know I didn't see it then. I think I didn't see it until I was grown. So I was in my 20s,
40s,
and and I saw shut your mouth. I saw the poster all the time, and back in the 90s we didn't have access to movies like we do. So I know we didn't have access like we do now. So I know I saw the poster a ton of times, but I never had any way to watch it, and I really didn't have a strong desire to watch it. It was just something that was there. I was like, oh, it's one of those urban movies that the kids up north see and we won't have access to.
Why were you talking like that? It should be one of those urban movies that they watch up north.
First of all, this movie is a very urban movie. It is like seriously like urban life. It is literally named behind a train. So, and we didn't have them. Not like that. So really, and I know people throw stuff in urban categories all the time, and it sound all racist and stuff, but like this is one movie that you could truly call an urban film.
True.
It is a very urban film. So, but then once I started getting access to movies, like I was able to like rent from Blockbuster, and like now we have apps with movies on them. I think I feel like I rented it, maybe.
Wow. Kudos to you. Man.
I don't know, but if I saw it in my 20s, that has to been how I saw it.
Yeah.
It has to be. And I
waited till it was 99. So
I did not remember a lot of the movie, so I know it had to be in my 20s. I didn't remember. The only part I remember is the end where we have that scene with the baby, and that's pretty much.
Y'all
we'll talk about it. This movie took a deep dive, like a deep dive.
But what was so funny was I was cracking up the entire time. Like it was terrible. It was terrible, but I was crying laughing that entire scene.
At that scene too?
Yes. We'll get into
I was laughing up to that scene, and then that whole scene
it was like one of them, but it was like what the hell is going on here? But we'll talk about it. Me, my history with the film, I think I saw it like 2 months ago, and I was like, wow, this is chaos, and I like it.
And we know you love a chaotic film.
I love a little bit of chaos.
This was not a little.
Yeah, this was a lot of.
So I watched it and I was like, this is very different than what we usually discuss on this podcast. It's definitely, and I think we talked a little bit and want to get into this a little bit more. Like, it went through so many different things. We have, kids living in poverty, teenage pregnancy, respectability when it comes to women and their smarts and how they're viewed. We talk about, I don't know, child abandonment almost a little bit. And
definitely.
secrets, sex education, like a whole lot of really good topics were thrown into this movie in a very interesting way. So, yeah. But before we get there, let's talk about our cocktail, which you probably needed one or two to kind of ease your mind after this.
Because there was a lot going on. So we are going to make a cocktail called a Blue Train.
Okay.
So, since our movie is, named after the train system in New York, why not, huh?
Yeah, sure.
So we are going to start off with a shaker full of ice and a 3/4 ounce of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Can y'all hear? I'm using the right mic this week. And we'll need 2 ounces of gin. I'm using Seagram's old school. This is your daddy's gin.
Got me some.
Everybody daddy drink. Oh.
Everybody had their cups, but it didn't chip in.
There you go. So 2 ounces of dry gin. And our shaker. And half an ounce of, I always get this. My little jigger has the ounces on it.
Love it.
Is that the real name of it? It's called a jigger?
It's called a jigger.
Wow.
Half an ounce of blue curacao, which is orange flavored liqueur, and a 1/4 ounce of triple sec.
Yum.
Which is another orange flavored liqueur. So here we go. So simple 4-ingredient cocktail. And then we will close our shaker up and give it a shake. Let it get nice and cold. And strain it into, it's supposed to be a coupe glass, but I just got a martini glass here, which will do just fine.
Yeah, that'll work.
And it's supposed to be a nice blue drink. Pretty blue.
Ooh, it is pretty. It does look like a hypnotic. That's exactly it. Do you got like little pieces of ice in there? Oh, you should make that into a slushy. That look like it'd be a real good slushy.
Yeah, I would definitely drink that if it was a slushy.
Yeah, I love slushies like way too much. So if it weren't so noisy, I would make some on this podcast. Maybe I will anyway.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll garnish this one with a dehydrated orange slice right on the top there. And there we have it, a blue train.
Lovely.
To talk about our train movie.
Really? She was on the train for like 2 seconds.
Like literally, the train really wasn't in this movie.
Listen, hey man, I ain't had nothing to do with that. It was named after the train. So here we go.
Okay. Well, how was it? Did you taste it? Was it good?
I did, and it is good.
Good. Well, we love to see it. Gonna have to check that one out. I don't think any of us have a liquor store like Kirsten does in her house. So, we have to go out and buy special ingredients and stuff to taste.
I do keep my spirits close.
And shoot, I live in a dry town. Snellville does not have any liquor stores in it. It seems like we're back in Statesboro, like I am in college.
I don't know. Statesboro done shifted gears, and now they have liquor stores.
That's right. Oh, I wonder how that's going for them. Anyone from Statesboro, check in and tell us how that's going for y'all.
I really would love to know that. Like, how is that journey?
Right. Because they was already up with no liquor stores.
I don't know what they were trying to prove because people gonna get what they want.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're gonna get it. Well, I guess let's just jump in. Where do y'all want to start? I don't even know where to start with this film.
We, we
Let's
can start in
see.
Brooklyn. That's where they started, so we can start in Brooklyn as well.
Yeah, let's start in Brooklyn. So Brooklyn in the 1990s, y'all. She's a
Yes.
teenager. She's a teenager. She has
Hold on,
um
y'all. Let's take a thumbnail real quick.
Okay.
okay. Silly.
Get ready. So cute. Okay. Terrell, you look
Yeah.
like you are dead.
She's a teenager. She got a job. What was real funny about that whole scene about her coming into work late and all that other stuff, and the boss was like, "You in charge? I'll be back." And I was just like, "She don't seem like she's supposed to be in charge, y'all. She don't seem like." But what was so also very interesting was, okay, so I guess she had came from school, went to work, come home, and then she was talking about how her parents don't get off work until 8 and then midnight, but she was in charge of her watching her brother. So I was like, okay, so at what point was you at school, work, watching your brothers? And it was a lot going on. It was chaotic. I don't know what was happening at that first half of the movie. I was very confused.
Well, Kayla, I will say this. I think in a movie like this, you can expect a lot of loopholes and not loopholes, but plot holes.
So many.
So trying to figure out her work schedule, you on your own with that player.
Yeah, like that first half of the movie, I was just like, I don't know anything. I think that they were trying to give us background information, kind of showing us that, she had a job, she's smart, she does this, she takes care of this, she's still living this life, da 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 da. I think they were trying to give us all of that background, and there just wasn't any like really good way to give us all of that without it just being chaotic as hell. We found out she got a friend who just had a baby. And like she's living with her mom. The baby daddy is not really doing much for her. And it was so funny in that whole moment because this is exactly how girls and women are. They was all hee hee ha ha kiki in her face, but she left off that train. It was like, ew, a baby, what's she gonna do? Ugh, I can't have no baby. I'm trying to be a doctor. Oh God, I hate it for her. And I was like, oh, we is ready for that. A little.
Yeah.
A little ready for that.
I think that they, in the beginning were really trying to force us to see how responsible Chantel was. Even though she was still a little dumbass 17-year-old, like all 17-year-olds. But it was like in the first 5 minutes of the film, they hit us with she got a job. Oh, she babysitting. Oh, she got a friend that's had a baby and she knows she don't want that for herself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they were kind of setting us up in the beginning to be like, this girl is super responsible. You'll never guess what's going to happen to her.
I already knew.
Yeah, it was. They did it. They pushed it so hard to it made it obvious what was going to happen.
She's gonna be a doctor. Yeah, I'm gonna be a doctor. Doctor me, doctor. I'm gonna be doctoring all over the place. I was like, she's never gonna become a doctor. That's not in her future whatsoever.
Chantel might be Dr. Chantel right now.
Yes, she is.
I believe in her.
Gonna be a sequel, her being Dr. Chantel.
And we can't get too ahead of ourselves, but baby was on her way at the end of this movie, okay?
She was
almost there. She was in community college.
Take it back, Terrell.
Yeah,
take it back.
Usually the pathway most doctors take.
But to be fair, she graduated super young.
Oh yeah, she was really, really smart. I'm not gonna take that away from her.
So I mean, she probably spent that extra year in community college and then started her med school journey and then her fellowship.
I love to talk about her smarts and her schooling and her principal and her teacher. I love to talk about that.
I feel like a lot of this movie was really just showcasing how all the adults around her failed her miserably. Like
the only one who was really worth a little salt was the lady from the clinic, and even then, I'm still was like, you ain't doing us, sweetie, because
When I saw that lady again, I was like, "Who is this lady?" And then they was like, "That's the lady from the clinic." I'm like, "You got her whole phone number?"
I'm not gonna lie to you. Again, a huge.
Remember she told her?
She did. She gave her her card, didn't she? And was like, "Call me if you need me." But I'm thinking,
That's
I'm
the whole number.
assuming she was like seeing her, but she couldn't have been because she wouldn't have no prenatal care or nothing. I don't believe. Remember, she was just kind of like, I ignored the fact that I was pregnant for like all this time.
Well, I think her name was Paula.
It was.
She when she gave Chantel the card, she was like, "Here's my card. I'm also gonna give you my home number." And it like one definite like plot hole was that she remembered her through the whole pregnancy. Because as far as we know, she didn't see Paula again.
That's
No.
what I was
And
saying.
then when Chantel called, she was like, "I remember exactly who you are. How's the baby?"
Literally.
So listen, I worked in social service for years. You call me 6 months later, I'm be who?
Ain't no way.
You
I'm
say
the one with the baby. I'm like, ain't everybody the one with the baby?
I literally work at the clinic. I don't know what I see babies all the time, pregnant women. Very interesting.
Yes.
But before we even get there, Chantel, super smart. And, you know, the one thing that they harped on was the fact that she did not take a liking to her history teacher trying to give them incorrect Black history. And so she was a little cussy, fussy, and got sent to the principal's office. And the principal was like, "You have got to stop cussing and X, Y, and Z at our teachers," and kind of like talking back and like trying to correct them and stuff like that. And I think that's such an interesting point, because what she was trying to say is, I'm the smartest one in my class. I get all A's and B's. I know what I'm talking about. So what does it matter the language I use and X, Y, and Z? I know what my goal is. I know I'm going to become a doctor. Why does it matter if I talk proper English or cuss and all this other stuff, right? Talk about that a little bit more, like the respectability of professionalism. Do you have to be? Do you all think that you know, in order to be a professional, you have to always have a professional talk and, you know, demeanor about yourself? Because, for example, I know a lot of, not know, but on TikTok, you'll see a lot of like therapists who will cuss and do X, Y, and Z. But, you know, that's on TikTok. I'm sure that they are not in their practices cussing at their, you know, patients and stuff like that. But would that turn you off if you saw one on like social media doing that? So yeah, let's talk about it.
Well, who you asking first?
Everybody, whoever wants to
Just everybody.
talk.
Everybody. People in the comments, what y'all think?
Valid question. Well, I think that around the time that this movie was made, yeah, probably, especially for Blacks, sure. But I also think that like one of the great things about social media, even though there's a lot of negatives about social media, but one of the great things about social media is that it has like not necessarily equaled or like leveled the playing field, but it has expanded the playing field. So like you think about singers. Used to be, you know, if you wanted to be a singer, you had to get your demo tape, you had to get it heard, you had to have a executive from a label, you know, sign you and all that stuff. But now you can get on YouTube and get a million people. I mean, that's hard. I'm not saying that like that's easy. But now you can build your own platforms.
Yeah.
And now for like people who are like therapists and people who have service-based or work in like service-based industries, you can build your own clientele. You don't have to necessarily rely on like referrals. You can get on social media, and as long as you are an expert in your field, you can really be more authentic and be yourself. Now, as far as me personally, would I go to a doctor that's on TikTok? Maybe. I would have to follow this person and like really see that they know what they're doing. And I think right now, especially, and I hate to say that this is trending, but I don't know another word for it, but like people who there are professionals on social media that are catering towards African American women more so than there has ever been in the industry before. And I think that social media is a beautiful place to like showcase that I am an industry professional and I am knowledgeable of the unique needs of African American women. So yeah, so I think like I guess I don't want to go off into the weeds too much, but to answer your question, I think yeah, back then in the 90s when things were more competitive, yeah, because it would be nothing to hear, oh, you can't act like that, you can't let white folks see you act like that. But now I think that there's a little more room for authenticity in different industries.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying with the different industries because personally, you're a doctor. I want you to act professionally. I want you to act like I can trust you to know what you're talking about. If you're talking like me, do we know the same thing?
Yeah.
No? Like I expect you to be a little more professional in certain settings than you would be in the street. Now, if I saw you in the street and you were talking like that, that's fine. But like if I go into the doctor's office and they're carrying on, I'm like, next doctor, please. Because I don't have time to mess around. I mean, I'm here for one thing, and if you're doing something totally different than what you were supposed to do, then
right.
I can't get with it. Because like even in my profession, like I can't be like, yo, what's up, y'all? You know what I'm saying? I'm here to do this interview. You feel me? I'm out here doing it in these streets. You feel me? Every day I'm hustling. Like, no, nobody. They gonna look at me like, sir, are you okay?
But that's the kind of like doctor that I would want too. Like, I think you should be able to do whatever you want on social media as long as you ain't doing something illegal and just completely obnoxious. But in the exam room, I would at least expect you to have some level of professionalism. And I have experienced both sides, like doctors that are cold and callous and to where you're like, I don't feel comfortable with them. But then I also like the last time I went to the dentist, it was a black dentist. It was a black dentist, and I'm fairly sure that she was probably exceptional at her job. Probably, I don't know. She's probably a great dentist, but she was I had never been to her before. She was a new dentist. Well, she wasn't new, but I was new to her. So, and my previous dentist that I had before I moved, they were very nice. They were white. Sorry. But they were very nice. They explained what was going on. Before they would do anything with my mouth, because they knew I was afraid, before they would do anything, they would be like, okay, next we're going to do this, and next we're going to do that. And they would talk to me and calm me down. But this new dentist I went to, she was black, and I guess she saw me as black, and she was like, okay, this is a sister girl. I don't know. Maybe she talked to all people like that. I don't know. But I had a broken tooth, and it was infected. And she was like, she took one look at my x-ray. She was, oh, no, girl, that's got to go. And I was, go where? What? What are you?
Really?
Oh, no.
Yeah, because, it was a tooth and then it had a crown. So I was like, I don't know if you're talking about the crown. I don't know if you're talking about the tooth. I don't know what you're talking about. And I was used to a dentist that would say, well, because of this, we're going to have to go this and this. But no, she was, girl, that's got to go. And she said it like 3 times. And I finally just would realize, okay, I'm not going to get anything further from her. And it was like she was so trying to talk to me like a sister girl so much to where I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah. I'm scared. Because what you mean it gotta go?
Yeah, she just kept saying, oh, no, girl,
I don't understand.
And I was like, okay, well, no, I'm going to go.
So I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna see you later.
Because it can turn people off, and you just like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not
And
here to
I
keep.
hate it. Yeah, I hated that. I felt that way, but I was like,
Yeah.
the way I feel about the dentist, like I have a fear of going to the dentist, like talking to me like that. Don't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to sound like you know what you're doing, and that you can convince me of what you're doing. So, but anyway,
But was it because she was black, or was it because how
I
she was
don't
trying to relate to you?
I don't know, but I felt like she was trying to relate to me in a black way.
If the dentist had been white and used the same vernacular, would
Oh, it
that have
probably
also turned you off?
would have hurt.
I would have not only been turned off, but I would have been offended. The only difference with her was that I wasn't offended because I felt like she was just trying to relate to me as a sister girl, and that's fine. But like just continuing doing it
Not
was
when you're gonna
just
be in my mouth. No, I don't need sister girl. I need dentist.
yeah. But if it was a white dentist being like, girlfriend, I would have been like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Like, ooh, now
But
hold on
social
now.
media can also get you into trouble if you're a professional because this was probably last year before last. It was I think she was a therapist or
Mm-hmm.
something. She was on TikTok and she was talking, and then she ended up like getting in trouble at her real job for
Mm-hmm.
what stuff she was saying on TikTok. And I was like, wow. So that stuff, it can go, it's a double-edged sword. You can use it to build your clientele. You can also use it to lose your profession.
Oh,
Because
there
I
was
believe
some
people are
nurses
being
that got
fired.
fired. There was
Oh
some
yeah,
nurses that got
What was
fired
it?
last month.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that.
Oh,
The
it.
ick thing. What's your
Yeah.
ick? Yeah,
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
So,
it's I think this is like such a bigger conversation that people tend to have about code switching at work and things like that. So it was
Mm-hmm.
interesting to hear this. I think the same. I think pretty much the same way. I think that there's like a time and place and a difference, and then also like knowing the person that you are servicing, because I've seen TikTok therapists who are like cussing and making funny videos and stuff like that, and who try to relate and say, you know what, yeah, I help people who have X, Y, and Z, but I also go get
Mm-hmm.
help too. So don't just think that because I'm a therapist, I'm perfect and da da da. And I'm like, that's cool and all. However, I wouldn't want you to come into a session with me and like also be cussing at me like we friends. Like every once
Well,
in a while, it'd be like a little slip up, and you'd be like, oh, and we like really into a conversation, and it's like da da da. I'm like, okay, cool. But like if you coming out the gate,
right.
I'd be like, this isn't quite what I need. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting, and it's a line and a fine one. But yeah.
Well, I think that anybody that works in a service-based industry that like does services where they have to like interact with another human being, like a good skill to have is to be able to read the room, read the person, and know how to respond accordingly. Because if you know somebody is like fearful of what you're doing, then you should know how to respond. Or if you know that somebody is not knowledgeable of what's going on, you should know how to respond.
Yeah.
And I think that is a skill that doctors should have, and who maybe Chantel might have that skill.
At some
She
point.
might curse at them, but
Mhm.
maybe some of that
Chantel had it.
was, huh?
I was gonna say, I think Chantel had it, just not at that moment, not at that time. She was still a teenager, like.
She had a lot of growing up to do, I
Mhm.
feel,
yeah,
and
yeah,
And I
she,
think that the
I mean,
principal,
obviously,
I
yeah.
think the principal was right on target. I don't know necessarily if the principal should have been like, stay another year, like you have to wait till you're a senior and graduate and stuff like that. I don't think it was that far, but I do think that what he was trying to tell her about, you still have a lot of growing up to do. You need to be a little bit more professional, more respectful, and things like that. Those were all good things for him to tell her. But
I,
he also just wasn't listening to what she was saying when it was like, this teacher is teaching us wrong. Like, this is like, and I am smarter than him. Like, I don't know what to tell you. She just, the
I
delivery
feel
wasn't
like
great.
the delivery wasn't great, and also I think his words were misplaced too, because and I understood why Chantel, like, because at the end of their conversation, there's like a time where she's like tuning him out. She like, breaks the fourth wall and starts talking to the audience.
Mhm.
And I could understand why, because and I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it with my modern lens now, but
Mhm.
his whole blanket thing was, you need to act more like a lady.
Yeah,
Not and I was like,
that was wild.
yeah, I hate that kind of advice, because how should ladies act? I mean, what was that?
Yeah, that was a
But
little wild.
yeah, and for her, like, she's got the grades. I mean, because it would have been absolutely fair for him to be like, your grades are great, but we need to work on your attitude and just be honest. But that whole, like, you need to act like a lady, and it's already I'm fresh out the gate, and you putting labels on me. Like,
Mhm.
now you telling me I'm unlady. Like, you don't even know me. You don't know my own life. I'm sitting there taking care of 2 kids I ain't even have. What's more ladylike than that? Like, what
Yeah.
do you want? So
Yeah.
I think it would have been fair for him to address the actual issue and instead of telling her whole being is wrong, you as a whole need to be more
Mhm.
ladylike.
Yeah.
I don't think anything anyone would have said would have changed anything about her at all.
At that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was kids are kids, and kids do what kids want to do when they want to do it. If they are already disrespectful and carrying on, telling them no matter how many different ways you tell them, it's not gonna make them more respectful. They're gonna be like, man, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and
Oh,
just
she was an idiot. Oh yeah.
Really, until it clicks. And I guess we moving on from this point too is like when she does end up getting pregnant, you can see that she starts to try and mature, but then you could still see where she did not have it at all, because she literally found out she was pregnant. The lady was like, if you want to give your baby up for adoption, good choice. If you want to have an abortion, you need to make a decision. And she just was like, yeah, I just went on with my daily business. I'm not pregnant. What are you talking about? And I was just like,
But you know what? I felt her so much in that progression, because I'm the same way. I'm old enough and mature enough now to know how to deal with a pregnancy. But I looked at her and I was like, in other areas of my life, I do the same damn thing. Like, sometimes stuff will be going on. I'll be like, I ain't got no money this week. I just take a fucking nap. Like, or like, stuff going on that I'm upset about, or shoot, I just sometimes just act like, you know what, that problem ain't there.
it's not there. Why not ever address that?
Yeah, and I was like, she's doing the same thing that adults do. She's doing it at a very stupid time. But and then, like, especially with the money, when he gave her the $500 for the abortion,
And blew
and she went,
it.
I do the same thing.
You take people $500 and just blow it with your friends.
I was like,
Nah.
oh my God, he was going to murder her.
But okay, first of all, look at this girl. She was already like very materialistic anyway.
She was.
Before all of this. She was always talking about what she was going to wear and her shoes and stuff like that. And
she's a child.
She was. And that's how children are. Mm-hmm. So then when she got pregnant, all she knew was that my life is about to change. I'm in despair. I'm going to do something to make me feel better. I got $500. And she already showed that, with these men, it's like, you know what? Whatever. So, and I'm like, listen, I wouldn't say that I'm quite that irresponsible to where I'll take money that I need to do something else with. But I'll be like, you know what? If I'm having a bad day, it ain't nothing for me to go on Amazon and be like, you know what? I'm going to buy me something. Or I'm going to stop by the store and get me a piece of cake or something stupid like that.
Yeah. I think that more so for her, like, in that moment. So, one, it was so crazy to see how smart she was, but how dumb she was at the same time. Because when he came up to her and was like, listen, I've been up all night thinking about this, and I done talked to my uncle, and he gonna give us $500 to get you an abortion. Like, I'm trying to help you out. And her mind was like, no, this is still my decision. Like, I still have to think about this. I still have to do this. You're not gonna just force me to do something that I don't want to do, and da da da. So one moment you're like, okay, she got a handle on this thing. She has been thinking this through. She got this. And no, she just ignored that fact too. She was just like, no, I'm gonna ignore the whole thing. Like,
I mean,
you
she
still
a
not gonna tell me
dumbass
what to
kid.
do. You're not gonna tell me what to do, but I'm also not going to make up my mind either.
Yeah.
Yeah, because just pretending that you're not pregnant. I'm not a woman. I ain't never been pregnant. Ain't never gonna get pregnant. But
Right.
just pretending that something like that big doesn't exist, it's only gonna hurt you in the long run.
Which it did. And I think it really did. Like, she obviously knew she was pregnant this whole time, but I think that she was putting it so far in the back of her mind that when it came time to have that baby, she had then all of that memory of like, oh my God, I am really pregnant. I am really about to have this baby. And then the moment it came out and she was like, nope, can't look at it, don't see it, get rid of it, da da da, was like how you create a problem and that problem gets so big that you ignore it. And now that it's like staring you in your face, you have no idea what to do.
Yeah,
That was
when that part, I was like, what? This whole time, you like, it's my choice. I do what I want. I'm going to keep this baby. I ain't doing nothing. We take $500. I'm going to go splurge. And then all of a sudden, the baby's here. You like, man, trash that baby. I was like, what?
no, I'm not. I know it was not funny.
I
It was
I
not
was
funny at
blown
all.
away. My jaw literally dropped when she was like, I don't want to see it. Go throw it in the trash can with the rest of this stuff. I was like,
Y'all,
I guess I have more compassion for Chantel than y'all do.
I had compassion for Chantel.
now
Because
you
I,
the baby in the trash can. No, I ain't got no compassion for you then.
well, no, I don't condone it. But she had just gone through the trauma of childbirth, and not even just like normal childbirth, which is already traumatic.
Chaotic ass
But
childbirth.
she had already been like, I'm not pregnant. I'm not gonna think about it.
Right.
Like, even through all of the raw conversation that we had internally with Chantel, with her friends, with Ty, there was never any conversation about, which is what most first time mothers think about, is how this baby's gonna come out. It's like she didn't even think so far as like think about that. And so then when her body start opening up to push this baby out, it was like she viewed it as an alien. Like, shit, get rid of it. I don't know what's happening.
Was like, it happened so quick. Like, I don't think she was having contractions beforehand, or if she was ignoring the hell out of them, because that baby came within like 30 minutes, if that. Like,
it was premature. She hadn't been taking care of herself or the baby. She had done no prenatal stuff. She hadn't been going to any doctor's visits. So like nobody even like, I'm surprised the baby didn't. I thought in the beginning and toward the end that the baby was stillborn because of the neglect of her not doing what she needed to do to nurse that baby, because she didn't look pregnant at all throughout the whole film.
You know, when
she was like, I'm about 30 weeks. I was like, 30 weeks.
She did say that. She said, so that's how I'm also kind of like, I feel like she knew a little bit because she knew how far along she was. And she knew to hide. She was doing things like hiding the food or throwing the food out. She was wearing the double girdles and stuff like that. So like she had a level of consciousness that she was pregnant, but I thought that I didn't think the baby was like not alive or anything like that. I just thought that it was interesting that she really didn't have a plan. Like there was just no plan. She hadn't thought anything through. Like she hadn't even, I feel like at some point teenage kids who are pregnant tell somebody. Like at some point, whether it's 30 week at the 30-week mark, at the 35-week mark, like she didn't seem to have a plan of action at all.
And she did.
Yeah.
She
I
really did.
I thought it was interesting to watch her focus shift because it was almost like there were two parts of her pregnancy. The
Mhm.
first part where she was like, "I'm going to ignore this. I'm not
Mhm.
going to think about it." And normally, I mean, like I said, I've never been pregnant to my knowledge. But
What?
you never know.
To my knowledge?
Yeah,
You never know.
but like you from what I've like with working with young teenage mothers, like from what I gather, like the first part of the pregnancy is like ignoring it, and then when they finally grasp this reality, then it's like focus on getting prenatal care and doing
Mhm.
what you're supposed to do. But her focus shifted to I'm just gonna laser focus on trying to hide this.
Mhm.
So instead of using that last, part of the pregnancy to connect with this baby or to figure out a plan or what you're going to do, her focus shift completely to coming up with all these tactics to try and hide it, the girdle, the food, the buying the clothes. And it was like,
Mhm.
girl,
And then,
um,
I mean, headed so far that when the baby came out, you said throw it with the trash. And then the little boy, he's so
What was that kid doing out? It had to have been 2, 3 o'clock in
okay.
the
So
morning.
many things, but
it was
that's
the
not the little
hood.
boy I was talking about. I was talking about the boy who she had the baby with. He
Oh,
was so flustered and stuff. Now, listen, y'all. The reason I was laughing was because it was so chaotic. Because she was screaming, and she's like, "Get the book, read the book, get the book, get the book." And he's like, "The book? What the book? Where am I supposed to look in the book? I don't understand what's happening right now. Everybody's just
Well,
screaming."
he was a dumbass kid too.
And this nigga just threw the book at her, and he was like, "You try to find it." And I was just like, "What is happening
Yeah,
here?"
they were two idiots, but
No, he
Ty
yeah,
was the one person that had some sense in the
a
whole movie.
little, just the whole now.
He
Hold
had
on,
a
I
pinch more sense
know,
than everybody else.
I don't know, because
He he
elaborate.
wa-
Ty is the reason
while
we
she was
in this
ignoring.
position.
Yeah, well, you said what? She's the reason why she's in this situation.
Ty was the reason she was in this predicament because that girl said, "Put the rubber on." Put the rubber on. I understand I'm on the pill. I'm doubling up on the pill. She said, "Put the rubber on," and he was just like,
I ain't finna say that.
it was
I
Ty.
ain't finna put that on
I'm
Ty.
finished.
I'm
I
not finna put that on
also
him.
was Ty even in school? I
Yeah,
think Ty
Cause
might have been a
yeah,
little
remember?
he was because they knew him.
okay, okay. Because I'm
But
like, something about that situation to me was just a little off.
I ain't
Because
gonna put that on Ty because
I don't like
almost
this on
every
Ty.
sexually active woman has been with somebody that's been like, no, no. And you just have to be like, oh, yes,
But
yes.
I feel like he bullied her a little bit in that moment because
I don't think I would say
he did
that.
that
He was
at
irresponsible and
Oh,
pushy.
he was very
da, da,
responsible.
da, 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 da. At the party, you was saying X, Y, and Z, and you not gonna do this to me right now. Like, I feel like at that moment, maybe it's both. Let me just, it's both of their faults that were in this situation because she
Yeah.
still could have been like, and no,
Yeah.
and
Because he
but
wanted it. And if she would have made him get up and go get a condom, he would have got it because he wanted it
right.
bad.
And
So,
I think at the end of the day, like when he said what he said to her about like at the party you was X, Y, and Z, she then had to prove herself because she's an idiot, a stupid teenager,
mhm.
and decided to, let that go forward. And it also again just talks about how much you got to talk to your kids about like sex education and things like that because there are a couple times in this movie that I was like, are these kids being for real? One was the if you have sex on your period, you can't get pregnant. The other was if you stand up, you can't get pregnant. And I was just like, they can't be for real. They can't be for real. They cannot be for real right now.
That
So they
sounded
were some
that
dummies.
sounded accurate to that era, to that 90s
Yeah.
era.
And I was
Yeah,
like,
Mhm.
oh, where is the parents? Where is
working
where is it?
just
And there
like
was
parents
such a
now.
certain moment of like, you really have to talk to your kids about these things because they believe some wild stuff, y'all. Wild. And then end up in predicaments like this, and you end up having a baby at a random man's
Mhm.
house in the middle of the night and throwing it in the trash.
Yeah.
But
It.
So your parents had to talk with you about
Eventually,
sex and stuff. Like, how old do you, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when that talk came to fruition for you?
it wasn't necessarily like a in-depth like X, Y, and Z, but I was in middle school, probably like sixth or seventh grade, and it was more like a if you need a condom, I would rather you come talk to me about that before you actually do anything. And I think
Hmm.
that's where a more in-depth conversation would have gone. But it was more or less like that because at some there are things that you end up having to do, and I just had to do them a little old younger than most people do, just because bodies develop in different ways and da 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 da. So it it wasn't like an in-depth like birds and bees and trees and holes and sticks go here and there and everywhere else and like this is what happens when you like it wasn't all of that, but it was enough of like this is a condom, use it, and like let us know if you have an issue. Like that was about it.
Okay. Well, so do you believe that was adequate to guide you in a way to be more responsible, or was it just something they said and you was just like, but I'm living my life, so if it goes down, it goes down.
I feel like you can't base this stuff on me because
I'm not just asking, just
it was efficient enough for me because I am also just a master like researcher or like a knower. I'm like really in tune with bitch, something is going on. I'm gonna ask somebody or like, and I also am one of the people who was like, best friend, so this is happening and like this is happening and like I have a question about this and like, oh, should I do this before? Like I'm one of those
Okay, but
kids.
that is also what Chantel did. She was
But
talking with her best
my
friends, and they were just
smart.
fucking idiots.
My friends and I were smart people. We wasn't just out. Yeah, like did I do dumbass shit?
They thought they were smart too now.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I absolutely will say
Because
I've done some stuff.
Nanette
What
with
apparent
with the damn AIDS, I was like, girl, what now?
I missed any of that conversation. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I paid close attention to a lot of the conversations that we had not that we had, but that the girls had.
That was a very 90s conversation.
It was very 90s. And I also of
the HIV/AIDS epidemic. Like it was like you like 90, you said 92, 93.
It was 92.
So that was like Magic Johnson got found out what was 91 or 92. So that was like right on the heels. He was like the face of it, and nobody really knew too much about it. They just know that you get it, you can't get rid of it, and the end result is sooner or later you die from it. So it wasn't really like, oh, we're so educated about what's going on with this because we know everything. It was like, no, we don't know. We only go off what we hear from different people or people saying different things. So it was,
and it was a ton of misinformation, like a
big
ton.
Did y'all have that talk with y'all parents? Like, did they ever,
Want me to take this one through?
Yeah, go ahead. Because mine is a real quick nope.
Yes, you did. Not okay. Listen.
Oh yeah. We had it through. But through my actual parents, no.
Yeah, my mom. She did not give me a talk, but I remember when I was like in 6th grade, maybe. She took me to the health department and got me a whole bunch of pamphlets. I was so damn confused. Yeah, I was looking at diagrams of dinglings and all kinds of stuff. I didn't know nothing. Mom, she was like, "Here, read about it," and I was like, "Okay." But I will say, at our church, honey, Sister Weaver, Nurse Weaver,
she was on it like a honey.
Yeah, and none of us in that age bracket had like teenage pregnancies. So
you're right. That thing, that's like all those pictures and all that stuff she was talking about. I was like, yeah, I don't want that to happen to me. Never ever.
Yeah. She was like, this is what if chlamydia gets deep down in your eyeball. This is what it'll look like, and we was all like,
no thanks.
No.
But was it more of a shock thing that stopped, or was it like an actual education of this will lead to this? Because I think they were more based on abstinence than they were on protecting yourself. If you know what I mean by that, like, because it was like, if you do that, this is what could happen, and then they start hitting you with the slideshow of all these like disease parts of people's bodies, and you like, yeah, mine don't look like that, and I don't want it to look like that. So yeah.
I think it did scare us and into abstinence and like, you know, or because I know through churches they're almost always gonna preach abstinence, and I think that she probably did be like, you know, if you're gonna do this, protect yourself. But the main takeaway is don't do this.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
which is going to stop much.
I don't feel like my parents ever were like, don't do this. I think like the overarching, you know, thing is always don't get pregnant. I don't necessarily remember my parents ever saying don't have sex. Like it was more so like don't baby in my house.
I don't think my mom thought I was interested in sex and stuff like that. Like I was an extremely immature child and an extremely immature teenager, and which I think was an error on her part, because even though I wasn't like sexually active in my like teenage years, but still it's not smart to just assume that your child would never do that. And I feel like with her parents, and maybe there were conversations that we weren't privy to, but like I wondered if they ever worried about that. Like they just kept saying, we don't want you out all hours of the night getting into trouble. And it's like, if you don't identify what trouble is, like, and how to avoid trouble, then how are they gonna?
Yeah, because trouble was always just trouble.
Yeah,
go ahead.
What did you say? Her whole dynamic.
I thought the dynamic with her parents was very interesting because it was always go through this, and I don't know if it's just me and my rebellious millennial mind, but I'm like, you can be like, I need some money for my rent, and I need you to watch these kids because we doing X, Y, and Z on one hand, and be like, no, I'm not gonna allow you to do anything that you want to do because it don't align with what we need you to do. Like I didn't like that. And that might just be me, because like I understand, I don't want you going out to no party and having, you know, potentially getting, you know, in you here watching these two kids that I created and put in this world, and I want you to go to work because, you know, we kind of like I know
that happened all the time. But I thought the mom said I wasn't going to take your money.
That wasn't her mom's intention. I heard her say that she didn't want to. I didn't hear her say that she didn't.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I assume she didn't, because she was like, I will help. I can work more at the store and I can help out. And she was, no, that's your money.
Said, thank God for Chantel though. Point of that discussion. I don't know.
I just assumed that was because she was watching the children.
I don't know. But either way, I think that thing, because it was like, you know, we trust you to do this, but we don't trust you to go and like have a good time and not get into any trouble. Which honestly, and now hold on, because she was downstairs in the laundry room with that little boy.
And nothing
even about her going out, it was like she's a teenager. Like nothing you can really the sun that you can tell a teenager not to do that. Do it regardless if it's under your right under your nose. I can't tell on myself, but baby, to do half the stuff that I needed to do. I just knew how to hide it.
Well, and I think that's what she did, like, because You know, when she was downstairs with Gerard, who Gerard was hilarious. He was my
Oh,
favorite. God,
Gerard.
no, Gerard was hilarious.
Oh,
Um,
Gerard. Honestly, truly.
when she was downstairs with him, but it was in the morning. So that's easy to be like, all right, I'm off to school. I'm going a little early so I can eat breakfast, or going a little early so I can hang out, or copy some notes or something. And she
Mhm.
would spend that time in the laundry room with her boyfriend.
That was funny to me, honestly. And he seemed
He
like such a
was
good
stupid
man.
too, but that was
I mean,
hilarious.
yes.
Golly, she was so
Hell
terrible to
yeah.
him. But
Was, and I didn't even understand why. I was like, was it because he didn't have much, or he was on I guess the same level as her?
Mm-hmm. Tyrone had a Jeep, remember? Tyrone had
mm,
the
Tyrone and the
Jeep.
Jeep.
but
And
that's little
Tyrone,
kid.
he had to sell that Jeep to help take care of that baby.
That was like little kid thinking, like, because all
Mm-hmm.
through the movie she just kept saying, I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be like my parents. And her parents,
Yeah.
there was nothing wrong with them. They just worked hard. They worked all the time. That was it. And it was like she saw Ty, and it looked like, he had a lot of money. He had a Jeep. Like, she saw the surface level stuff and
Mm-hmm.
chose him over Gerard.
Not a good person, not for real. He
Who, Ty?
talked to his mama, like talk. Oh, baby, when she told him, she was pregnant, I thought he was about to push her over the damn into the darn ocean. Like I was like, golly.
That was really the only time I really disliked Ty. But other than that, I actually, Ty was really the only one who had some sense in this movie to me. Like, Ty was the one that was coming up with a game plan. He was like, look, if you're gonna keep this baby or you're gonna abort it, here's the money. I'm gonna talk to some adults and get some help. And
Yeah,
then he was the one that she was like, throw the baby away. He was like, are you sure? And then he, in the end, he couldn't
yeah,
do it. And then he was
yeah.
the one that he sold his Jeep. He like made a sacrifice and sold his Jeep. And I just I just think that, like, Leslie Harris did a really good job of showing Chantel the shifts that she made through this movie. Because
Mhm.
even though she made some very dumb choices, but like on the surface level, like the audience looking, you could see, like, because when the movie opens up, she's like this loud, boisterous teen. She's having fun. She's dapping people up, throwing out the
Mhm.
peace sign, yelling and laughing. And then the second half of the movie takes like this deep dive, and we like the luster just went out of her.
Yeah.
And she was quiet, very reserved. And I was like, the adults around her are failing her. Like, she took a drastic turn. Like, nobody saw that something was going on. The only one that saw something was going on was Nanette, but she was dumb. She was a dumb kid too. So she didn't know what was going on. She just thought her friend was mad at her.
At some point, it'd be like adult eyes. I'm like, damn, Nanette is not a good friend. But Nanette was a child. She was doing what children do. Like, she was mad at her for telling her about the money and the baby, and that got spread all across the thing. And I'm like, at first, I'm like, damn, I would be pissed if my friend went and told my business like that too. She was a kid.
And they was loud. Everywhere they went, they was loud, loud, loud. Like, who didn't know?
I was
They was in the
that was
library like, are you
crazy.
gonna have an abortion or what?
I got $500 for this abortion. So you gonna have the abortion? You not gonna have the abortion? Because I got the money right here in my hand. I'm gonna put it in your hand so you can have the 500. I was like, bro, y'all in New
Like,
York talking loud about how much money you got. $500 is a lot of money in '92.
I was like, y'all, what? Yes. Y'all in the
but
library. Okay, can y'all take that
she never
outside?
told Nanette that she was pregnant.
No, she told her that she wasn't pregnant.
Nanette
Right.
was there with her when she took the pregnancy test.
That
And
was an
two of
old
them,
school pregnancy. I ain't never seen a pregnancy Just like
Bruh, that was like a chemistry set. I was, whoa.
I was like, how could you not mess that up?
When I came up on this when we got
shit.
here today.
We don't know about that shit.
I ain't never seen one of them things before in my life. Clear blue easy. That's the only ones I've seen. I've seen the one
everything old. Kayla think that we the ones to ask. We ain't that damn old now. They would had old Mr. Wizard's chemistry set.
Yeah, they so
Never because they had a test tube. I was very
me either. I was like,
yeah,
I got questions about what she had to do. I get it into the test tube and test because you know how to take a pregnancy test now. Like I was very confused.
I've never seen one like that. But it came with a whole wooden block and test tubes and stuff. That was something new for me.
I was like, whoa. When she was like, it keeps coming up positive. I was like, how can you tell?
I was like, no wonder she could act dumb because, hey.
Because she was like, I took it multiple times. I was like, where did you start and how did it end? That thing was tough. I was like, the 90s was hard.
Yes. Yeah, now that alone should have stopped teenage pregnancy. If like, are you get pregnant, you got to take one of them tests. Like, oh, I don't want to take that test. That's hard. That was like SAT level hard.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, that was a lot. I need to look that up because that was crazy. I ain't never seen nothing like that.
Yeah, that was something. Well, anybody, do we have any other points anybody want to talk about?
No, we touched on teenage pregnancy. We touched on the parents. We touched on her education. We hit a lot of points. I think we
okay, y'all know
we
Southern versus Northern. Do you think that there was a major difference between, would we in the South versus
yes.
Her
being pregnant like that? Hiding the pregnancy?
Oh, hell yeah.
Probably all of it. Like the pregnancy, the partying, the of it. Do you think it would have made it that far down to the end of the with no one knowing? I feel like down south, and this just might be me, we have some, because of like superstitious things we believe in, like, I don't know if this is just a Black thing or if this is a Southern thing, I seen fish in my dream, or a little different, your hips spreading a little wider. Like, I think we pay attention to that stuff down in the South a lot more than people probably do. And do you think she would have made it all the way to 30 out somebody's auntie, cousin, and them finding out?
Well,
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because hiding stuff is hiding stuff. No matter if you up north, down south,
that's true.
South America, Australia, you gonna hide it. You gonna hide it.
Yeah. Hiding stuff is hiding stuff.
That's
but
true.
like I'm trying to think about if Chantel was
I think
in the
probably
South.
the one that I don't know if it's just me, because I just didn't do like a lot of like party sneaking and stuff like that, would be the party and her parents not finding out about it. Because now I feel like one thing that is someone's mother would have found out about something and then told everybody, and child was at the party too, and your child was at the party too, and like that would have gotten around. I think that might be only thing that I would see a difference in.
Well, we never saw anybody else's parents, so we don't know what kind of setup Nanette had.
At the end after the baby was born, because I fly on the wall when they found out what happened.
If she come popping in there with a baby, like
I really want to have been in the number who was there. when they found
That's
out.
one thing I think they should have explored. Her coming home with that
Absolutely.
baby because nobody knew she was
Absolutely.
pregnant. Then all of a sudden, I'm just home from the hospital. I got this baby here. Me and this baby gonna stay here, and I'm gonna go to community college, and we all up in here. What?
We at the end of the movie, we done got a baby, got a new man, got to college. The other, but he's not really in the like it was, and the baby still looked like young, and I was real confused.
Yeah. Well, I have a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this movie would be appropriate to show in school, like in a sex ed class, to teenagers?
Portions
I
of it, maybe.
not necessarily like it's a teenage movie to me. It is a very coming of age. Gonna be what kids of today are using. Like they're used to seeing this type of stuff like Hallmark movies, even when it is directed towards them. This was a lot rougher than what they are used to seeing today.
Well, I feel like this film, I guess my last critique of it is that it's just a shame that the acting was just so poor and so terrible because I think it is a really important film. I really do. I think it touches on a lot of things, like and a lot of like elements of 90s life and still today because there were some issues that she brought up that we talk about today, like infant mortality rate. And even though HIV and AIDS like has made leaps and bounds, it's still a problem. It's still, present. And, she was very knowledgeable about, poverty and women's rights and Black history and abortion, like some of the things that she talked about and had to experience are still very relevant today. I think
Right.
that this film did a very good job of showing consequences because usually, like Kayla said, a lot of this stuff is packaged up in a Hallmark movie. And even though, there is some adversity, but it still gets wrapped up in a neat little bow at the end. And I think that this movie, because usually, like these movies, it'll be like, she gets pregnant and has the baby and goes on, and everything worked out fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not the case. We learned, even though it was just in conversation, we learned that the baby had been sick. Ty had to sell his Jeep. She's, right. She's trying to still go to school. Like it wasn't like, even though it wasn't ending, it wasn't this closed off ending. Like we leave, like everything is great.
Yeah.
Everything worked out. And I think that, like I said, this movie did show consequences really well. Like we learned that because we watched Chantel for the whole 2 hours, skip prenatal care, skip doctor's visits, just really not really taking care of her unborn child. And we see that the baby is premature. The baby is sick. Like it wasn't like this fairy tale ending. And we also like, because I think that they did a good job. Well, Leslie Harris did a good job of showing like the sex scene between her and Ty was not a typical sex scene. They were bumping around and fumbling around, and it was not sexy, but it was like if you saw 17-year-olds having sex, that's probably how it would look. Not romantic at all. And then so that scene was very raw. And then the birth scene, that was very raw. So I feel like, and then we have this sex scene, and then the consequence of it is this raw birth scene. So yeah, so I do think, and also we didn't just see like, I'm gonna be a teenage mom now. I'm gonna have to get a job and it's gonna delay my plans. It also shows some of the like outlier stuff that happens. Like her relationship with her friends suffered. Like they didn't understand what was going on with her. She didn't feel she could talk to him. Like her best friend Annette, their friendship suffered. Her relationship with Ty broke down. Like they're now co-parents now. They're not together anymore. Yeah. So I think that it did a good job of showing this well-rounded view of all of the consequences that can happen. Yeah.
Like, how do you come back from that? She wanted to throw our baby in the trash.
And she was lucky as shit that he decided to change his mind because
they was gonna go to jail. As soon as I seen him walk, I was like, he's going to jail. That's all I kept thinking. I'm like, bro, y'all is committing a crime right now. This other stuff, y'all could overlook that stuff, having a baby, da. Once you start putting babies in trash bags and dumping them and scooting them next to the trash can and making sure the trash is kind of like, let me tighten that up some. That's what I'm like, bro. Y'all going to jail. Y'all is going to
bad. Yeah. So
I'm crying.
But that's my final little
accessory too at that point because she done drove about the baby. I was like, oh, this is wild.
Yeah, she was like, where that baby at? I was like, yeah. Is somebody gonna tell you? Because if the police come and ask me, I'm like, yeah, she had a baby. We gonna need to find that baby.
Yes, and the bed it already looked like a crime scene. So yeah,
she definitely had that looked like a scary movie. It was so much blood everywhere. And I'm like, goodness gracious, she hands full of blood. I was like,
what's call the police? Yeah, for her to think that wasn't how to call the police or call the ambulance or something is also again show how naive she was as a 17-year-old because
and ain't no way she should have. No man, ain't no way she should have even promised her that she wasn't gonna call no damn police. Because then I was like, oh, Paula's gonna get the okie doke. But then as soon as she hung up, she called the police. But then the damn police couldn't show up. I was like, the adults in this movie.
They wouldn't show up. They was not going to show up. And I was like, wow. And that's another thing that they touched on real quick.
That's crazy.
Because calling 911 during that time, it was like, depending on what neighborhood, like, we got other things to do. It's other things, more important things.
Calling 911 today is still like that. I was right up this morning, car accident, boom, right in front of me. Called 911. This nigga did not answer the phone for a good 20 minutes. A good 20 minutes. Yeah.
Wow.
All phone off busy.
Well, you hold the line. I ain't surprised.
Hold the line.
Well, that's awful. And I think that also this movie did a good job of showcasing just 90s life and 90s problems because calling 911, dealing with sexist teachers, even now, HIV and AIDS, like we were fresh off of Reaganomics, and like the Reagan administration did a horrible job of mishandling HIV and AIDS in the 80s, and the residual effects were in the 90s. It was bad, like in the 80s. So
terrible.
But that's my last thing I have to say about it. You guys have any final thoughts?
None whatsoever.
Okay.
No, we can close this thing on out.
Okay. Well, we can go into our best, worst, weirdest, which there ought to be a lot with this film.
I think the best for me was that it really just showcased of what life was like at that time, as chaotic as it was. I think it really was a true coming of age. So that's best. Worst for me was that, there you could see that there was just the gaps in education and like telling, like there just wasn't enough life education going on for the kids, and they were kind of just out there fending for themselves and having to do for themselves, and that's how they ended up in the situation they were in. And then I think the weirdest for me would just be, I guess, I don't know. I feel like I sniff pregnancy a little bit, and I'd be like, something's going on with you that's a little different. Maybe not sniff pregnancy, but like sniff that something else is going on. And so for no one to have figured like noticed anything about her being different and like pried a little bit more into that, like was interesting to me. But I understand people be having their own things going on, and I'm just I don't.
No, I wouldn't have quite said it the way you did, but I understand what you're saying because it seems like her mom should have known. But you know, I can't. I say that with a grain of salt, and I say that with caution because I can't put down a working parent. Like sometimes things get by you, and most parents are just trying to do the best that they can do. But you know, with her eating up all that food and the larger clothes, but you know,
you mean wasting it? Oh, that made me mad.
Oh, that was like, why you
what you throwing it? I'm a slam dunk this chicken in the trash.
But I think she was trying.
Like,
yeah, but I guess she didn't.
A little bit heavier.
Yeah, that was yeah. Right. But maybe she was the one who took the trash out. I don't know.
Nourish your baby. She could have been nourishing that baby.
But she didn't want to gain no weight. So I was like, okay, that baby really listen, God bless babies and fools. It
was both involved.
Both. Because that baby ain't had no nothing. She ain't even eat extra for that baby. Like
she didn't do nothing. I was like, dang.
Yeah. Terrell, you want to give your best first where it is?
Oh, sure. Best part I think the messaging in the film was probably the best part about it. I really like how they really told the story. It seemed real, it seemed grounded. It seemed like it was something that was too far out of the realm of possibility of things that could possibly happen, especially during that time. The worst part of the film was the acting. Oh my goodness. I don't mean this. I don't want to put nobody down. And I'm glad they were able to do it, but it just seemed like something they was like, we get credit for this. And they was like, yes. And then so they showed up and they was like, I'm gonna get my acting on. And your acting was trash. The majority of y'all. So, but other than that, other than the trash acting, it was a story that needed to be told, especially for that time and for this time. It's something that can carry over. And the weirdest part of the film was it was weird that no one had an inkling, no one had a clue. Even the friend who took, I'd have been like, if I was in the net, I'd have been like, we friends. I know you told me you wasn't pregnant, but something ain't right. The water ain't clean, and I think you might have been lying to your girl.
So, and then especially when that $500 came about, and you said, "Who gave it to you? Ty gave it to you.
Ty got it like that."
Like I would have asked a couple of questions.
Because during the 90s, ain't nobody splurging just $500 just because, like. $500, like I said, especially you in high school, $500 is an astronomical amount of money when you're a teenager.
It's a lot now. So back then, I know.
Now that I'm thinking about it, because they was all kind of working.
Was Ty was working too?
Well, no, Ty was just.
I think Ty was spoiled. His mama spoiled him.
I still don't understand why. I just threatened to run away, and my mom just gives me whatever. I would have been like, I would have been like, please.
Bye, Ty. Bye.
I was like, okay.
Well,
yeah.
Well, my best worst weird is I would say that I think the best part. Well, I think there's a lot of great parts, and I think I've already talked about them during this episode. But one thing that I did not mention was I really thought that, and so I'll say that is the best. was the conversations. Like, there was very few movies that were like a coming of age movie for like Black women. We saw some that were for like Black men. Of course, white people had coming of age films all the time. But like actual Black girls, when we hear like from like their lives, seeing their lives, hearing from their perspective. So I thought like, even though the conversations were completely ignorant, I thought it was great to like see her interacting with her friends and like having dialogue about like real issues and just like talking. And it made me feel like I was watching a very stupid, ignorant episode of Girlfriends.
Dang.
My girlfriend.
Yeah, like, cause they would be sitting on the block and they'd be like, "Yeah, girl, I heard this and that. Like, oh, I want to go to this party." So I was like, "Okay, that's great." We don't see that a lot. So that was a good for me, and I would say that the worst would be, yeah, the acting, and I hate to say that because like I think like these actors were very young. It was also like this is the 90s and all acting was kind of bad back then. Not all, but there were a lot of movies where the acting is questionable. So if this movie came out now, it'd be like, oh hell no. But it kind of got a slight pass back then. So, and I feel like that's kind of the worst because if the acting had been better, like maybe if they were directed better or had better lines, stuff like that, this movie would have made an even greater mark, and carried these themes even further. So, but I still think that they did a great job because if you think about it, like these are young actors and they are carrying a very heavy film.
Yeah.
So that would be the worst, and the weirdest would be just I don't know if this would be weird because I really think it's more of a bad, but just how I keep saying through this whole episode, like the adults in this girl's life really failed her, like from the start to finish. Like even the ones that come through for her, like Paula, even still failed her. Like it was just rough.
Just a lot now.
This girl didn't have a fighting chance. Like
did not.
Yeah. So it's happy hour. Woohoo!
Paula. I'm having a drink, Paula, because Paula, she needs to get her life in order. Because there's a couple things like, number one, what you're doing that you know that you ain't never heard. Like your life must not be fun enough, so we need to have this drink so we can,
Paula gonna lose her job messing around with Chantel.
Right. So about that immediately.
Who you having to drink with? T-Rex?
I'm gonna have a drink with Gerald.
Who is Gerald?
His name wasn't Gerald. What's his name? His name wasn't Gerald. Gerard.
Oh, Gerard. That's who I was gonna say. Gerard need a drink.
Yeah,
I told baby did need a drink probably because they did him wrong.
They did him so wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say they did him wrong. They helped him out.
Wow.
He dodged it.
If you think about it, I guess yeah, that's true.
And that's what I'm gonna tell him when we had that drink. I'm like, you lucked out, dog. You ain't had to worry about that foolishness they got going on over there.
Gerard was a nice kid. I hope that he's somewhere with a nice wife and family, because he had his little condoms ready, and he was gonna love Chantel, but she was like, nope, you don't got a Jeep.
You know what? You right. Oh yeah.
That thing was so funny when he walked up to her and was like, yo, we about to go hang out. He's like, no, I'm about to go hang out with Nanette. And then he's not like, he didn't even get far, but he seen her get in that Jeep. That girl, her heart was broke. I was like, dang.
And I didn't even try to hide it. She was like, peace.
I know, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
I was like, damn, homie is heartbroken.
Even Nanette was like, ah, she's throwing her books at the Jeep.
Why was Nanette so invested? I was like, what? And when Nanette threw the books, I was like, did I miss a scene? Like, did they have a fight? Like, why is she chucking her books at the girl?
I think
that damn notebook exploded.
I think she was a little upset that she was actually out there doing like with that.
Child, Nanette was over it
already.
Maybe I have a drink with Nanette. If you have a drink with Gerard, I'm gonna have a drink with Nanette, so Nanette can just be like, I don't know what happened. She just had a baby.
Look,
I just
having a drink with all the people who have been affected by her life.
Yes. Tell you Oh God. Well, Terrell, what you binge watching these days?
See, I am watching The Last of Us on HBO. It's one episode. The second episode comes out tonight. So far, so good. If you played, I don't know. I doubt y'all played the game. I barely played the game, but it's pretty good. The storytelling is good. They're kind of sticking close to how the game is, and that's always a plus. But they're also adding some stuff in it that'll make you think and just be like, okay, well, I see where they're going with this. So far, so good. HBO usually puts out good series anyway, so just another HBO series knocking it out the box.
Cool,
love it.
Okay, what about you, babe? What you binge watching this week?
I'm going to watch, and I think I'm going to watch that right when I get off of here. Season 2.
What's it called?
Alice in Borderland. It's Korean TV shows about zombies and stuff like that. It's actually really good. I'm not a zombies, but my best friend kind of into this Korean TV show watching stuff. So I'm excited to watch that. It's Velma, which I hate to see is getting as much as it is. I kind of liked it. It's different, but I kind of liked it. Oh no!
Well,
real like it's terrible, y'all.
Well, I've heard bad things about it, and I think people are just kind of upset with Mindy Kaling, and which I've heard some of the reasons why, and I didn't even know, but I started reading stuff. I was like, oh, okay. But I started the first episode of Velma, and
never would have made it. You ain't even finished it, huh?
It's just me to be anything that was like, oh my God, this is spectacular. Da, 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 da. I just thought, it was supposed to be different, quirky, adult-ish, but not like adult show, like how and like in the same style of shows like that. So
I think it is
like a Rick and Morty and da da da. So like when people like ragging on it, I was just like, I don't see what was y'all's expectation of it, because
for it to be good,
the expectations that I would have a show in this style was going to be.
I think that just using characters like that just to use them because they're familiar characters. I think if they wanted to do this, they should have did something original instead of just trying to piggyback off the cachet of characters that people know well or have heard of or have seen a lot of. Because this, I've seen a little bit of it, and then I've also watched a lot of people talk about it, and it's just not. It's for some reason there's a disconnect between the characters and how people feel the characters should perform and how they perform on this show. It's so off from their actual characters. Like, why didn't you just make this own original thing? If you
I will say, I agree that it's different. I thought that was the purpose. I thought we was going into that knowing that it was going to be. These are the characters, but they're completely different. I don't know.
I think that for me personally watching it, and granted, I might change my mind because I only watched half of the first episode. Um, so I
That's so
think
funny.
what it is that this reimagining of them is so drastically different from
Mhm.
our first initial experience with Velma and those. And part of the concept of, is that me? Is that you? Oh, but
Somebody was going to get found out sooner or later.
yeah. But I think like part of the original concept of the show was the innocence of those characters.
Mhm.
Like, because even though they go through all these mysteries, it's never actually a ghost. It's never actually a
Mhm.
monster. It's Scooby Doo is still just a cute little scary dog. Like, and Velma's innocent, and so is Fred and Daphne, and they're just like innocent kids. And now this whole reimagining is them like just cursing and being butt naked, and it's like this is really really different. And even though that concept has worked because that is the concept for Once Upon a Time, like they took fairy tales, but with Once Upon a Time they made these characters very complex, and
Mhm.
even the heroes were, they had bad times and they had good times. And I guess maybe we talk about these new characters enough to call them complex, but I was like, they just trying really really hard to be real crass and make these characters like mean and stupid, and it's like these are not the characters that we used to love. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
but yeah, but
What do
anyway,
you want?
well, I was gonna say I started that, I don't know if I'm gonna finish it,
Okay,
but
that's all right.
the only thing I done gone old school. Listen, I don't know if I'm going through some mental health stuff, which I probably am, but it is very comforting to watch episodes of stuff that you've watched before. So I restarted True
Mhm.
Blood, and I'm going through True Blood, and that's pretty much it.
True blood. That's a commitment. Okay.
Hmm.
We love
But
commitments now. The
yeah.
familiarity of watching shows is always a blessing. Very like,
Mhm.
I don't have to think about it or anything at all for the next.
Yep. And I said once I finish True Blood, I'm gonna go back to Lost.
Oh,
Whatever. Ain't nobody waiting.
okay.
You also reboot by the time you finish it. They'll be lost
Okay,
again.
girl. That's funny, Terrell. That's real funny.
Yeah. Oh, we have a comment
Well,
that says I can definitely understand that it's Def Hard trying to reframe the characters completely for this show. Yeah, I feel like sometimes that works and then sometimes it doesn't. And I think this is just an instance where it just doesn't. For now,
what
we'll
what's going
see.
to be very interesting is a lot of movies are also being remade. There is going to be a scary Winnie the Pooh movie that's coming out. There's supposed to be it's another
What?
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's supposed to be
fortunately.
like this really intense, scary Winnie the Pooh movie where he's like, I think it's either him or Christopher Robin's like a murderer. Like, yeah, it's called Winnie
You
the Pooh,
know,
Blood and Honey, and it's coming out this year. Actually, it's out now. I think no
oh, I
February.
still have yet to go see Megan. Have y'all seen it?
No,
No, I haven't
I
seen
want
it.
to
I'm
see
wait.
that.
I'm gonna drop this
Huh?
movie into y'all's thing so y'all can go see the trailer
Okay.
for it.
And y'all put me on to something with that damn Cocaine Bear because I was like, Randall, you want to go see Cocaine Bear? And he was like, no. Okay. Like
Okay.
Randall only like action and comedy and music movies. So
My guy.
yeah. So but yeah, I think that's it. Anybody else? Any final thoughts? Any other binging that
Mhm.
you're doing?
I think we're good.
Good go.
Well, then,
Another one.
Terrell, take us on out there, bro.
All right. Well, that's our show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. For bonus content and to learn more about the show, you can head over to sipsandscripts.com, or you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Sips and Scripts Podcast. If you have a suggestion for a film to discuss, want to join in the conversation, say hello, hit us with a DM on social media, or leave us a voicemail on Anchor, and we'll play it on the show. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.
See you later, alligators. After a while,
Whoa.
crocodiles.
Okay, I didn't expect that.